I'm pretty sure that most people have resistance to tuning into the divine more than occasionally because it's scary. If we are in touch with the divine, if we are receiving the wisdom and understanding and grace that comes from spirit, it may ask us to do something that we don't want to do. Well, it's something that Yesod doesn't want to do. It might be something like moving us away from our family, or certainly practicing a kind of lifestyle that our family disapproves of. And that can be very, very tough, though, of course, there are benefits. You can also lose friends when you start working seriously with spirit because you don't take an awful lot of the BS that goes around nowadays. You can deal with it with love and compassion, but you have powerful discernment. So, why is it that we do resist? Why don't we want to step up? Why is this fear so powerful? I think the main reason is that we think we're going to be asked to do too much. We get the idea that we're going to have to be challenged like Jesus or like some of the great saints. And we don't want that. We truly don't. It's too much. But here's a little story from my life. It's from a long time ago now, but I tell it a lot in workshops, and it can be very, very useful for people to see that sometimes you have to do very, very little, but you do have to show up. I was in Israel traveling with a Kabbalistic group to look around Jewish sites. It was a Jewish group, so we weren't going to Bethlehem or Nazareth or places like that, which was a bit frustrating for me. I wasn't calling myself a Christian back then, but I had been raised as a Christian, and going to the Holy Land meant I did want to go to those places. However, we were going to Jewish places, and in Jewish synagogues and in places around Judaism, there's segregation between men and women. The leader of our group was male, and so he was going with the men to the side of the synagogue or the shrine, and the women went on their own to the other side, which frankly wasn't necessarily as well maintained as the men's side. And the women were starting to get a little bit knocked about it. A susurration started, and even back then, even though I was quite new to Kabbalah and I was certainly new to that group, I didn't feel that I could do anything about it. Having been a journalist and a broadcaster most of my life, I didn't have fear of speaking up for myself, but I did have a fear of stepping out of the comfort zone. And I didn't want people to say, well, what do you know? You're new, you're a Christian, you can't possibly tell us what to do. So I said nothing. Eventually, we went to the Western Wall in Jerusalem, and the men went off to the left-hand side, and some of them put on their kibbot and their talis, and they were praying with our leader, and the women with the other side. And again, this susurration went, and I thought, maybe I could say something. Maybe I could get us into a group. But I didn't, because again, it wasn't my place. I didn't dare. Then we went back to our hotel. And that night, instead of going down to supper, I started feeling quite sick, which for me was really unusual. I'm a Turian. I like my food, and I'm not often sick, but I really didn't feel good. I was really out of sorts. So I stayed in the bedroom and had a bath. And while I was in the bath, Spirit spoke. My guidance spoke. It said quite clearly, Maggie, why didn't you speak? And I answered it, and I said, because I'm not good enough. And this is the important thing. What Spirit said in reply was, and you can tell it's Spirit because it's unexpected and it's usually kind. It may be a little weary, but it's kind. And the voice said, you know something, Maggie? You're absolutely right. You aren't good enough. You'll probably never be good enough. But the important thing is that you were listening, and we can only work with those who will listen. That was mind-blowing for me. And then the voice said, another time, will you act? If we ask, will you act? And I said, yes, I will. Do you promise? Yes, I do. I thought that was quite safe, really. And then that was it. And I started feeling well again. This was my first real speaking to from spirits since the age of about 9, when I started turning things off because I was becoming too weird for my family. But it had come back, and it was speaking to me because I was lying in the bath and willing to receive. The next day, we were supposed to be going off to Yad Vashem and then on to Qumran. But first, we were going up to the Dome of the Rock. So our little group trotted up to the Dome of the Rock, which was unexpectedly shut. They were going to be shut for the next half hour. So our leader said, we'll go back down to the Western Wall for half an hour. And all the way down, believe me, I was going, oh, God, no, because I'd promised. And I was so scared. So the men went to their side again and the women went to our side again. And I thought, no, I have to speak. I have to. All I had to say was, shall we get into a circle and hold my hands out? That's all I had to do. The women immediately got into a circle and started praying. That was all I had to do. Spirit didn't require me to sacrifice myself, get upset, get pilloried, nothing, just to be for one moment a leader. And how special that was, I know, because 25 years later, we were on another Kabbalistic pilgrimage, this time to Japan. And the leader said, is there anything anybody wants to recall from the last years of study and the travels that we've had? And one woman put her hand up and said, the most amazing thing for me was when the women at the Western Wall spontaneously got into a circle and started to pray. That was amazing. And it was wonderful for me too. I didn't need her to know I'd had anything to do with it. That wasn't the important point. The important point was just one tiny action was all that was required to turn that tide, to take away the susurration and bring the women together. And if you think, oh, no, it wouldn't be like that for me, that is the story of Spirit. It would guide you gently and slowly and only ask you to do what you are willing to do in that moment. If you want to be a great saint or a great mystic or a messianic figure, Spirit will let you do it, and it will challenge you all the way through, and it will challenge it and make it difficult. But for beginners like us, Spirit is gentle. So please don't be afraid to listen and speak.